Good afternoon and welcome to CIS 101. I hope you're doing well and you and your families are safe. We're getting reports that COVID is increasing, so I'm hoping that you are continuing to observe the healthcare professionals' guidelines. And as we get ready for the holidays, I hope that you please observe those guidelines. On the other hand, I will ask you, if you have time, try to finish as much as possible in terms of assignments. And basically what I have done is I have tried to move a little bit ahead by providing you with some hints and some information that might help you to work on the assignment. So this week we are on week 13, I think, and we are working on chapter 1 for access, and this is the one that's going to be due by tonight. But if you go back to your weekly learning assignment, you'll see that the hint for week 14, which kind of starts next week, is actually already available there. So I have this video right here, and in a few minutes I'll be posting the one for chapter 3 and then chapter 4. So my advice is go through the simulation, attempt the exercise, and then you can come and watch the video and try to grade and see where you made some mistakes if you did, and then you can try to see how you can make those improvements, because this is supposed to help you to kind of reinforce those concepts that you have learned through the simulation. Sometimes the simulation doesn't give you the opportunity to actually see the results because you're clicking and moving and moving and moving. So when you're working on the hands-on mid-level chapter exercise, it helps you to be able to actually make your hands dirty. So Microsoft Access is a little bit more technical, but is one of those tools that we use every day in our day-to-day transactions. And for those ones who are in management position, you use this all the time when you're managing your employees or your customers' data. So with that being said, we will move on to the next piece, which is for week 15. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reopen all these folders so you can pace yourself. If you finish the assignments earlier, that's good enough. That means that you leave yourself some time to work on your other assignments and also to maybe do some shopping if you want to do that. Remember, as always, I'm available through the email, through the discussion board, or through the phone, text, call, whichever works for you. So I provided the document here that gives you the instructions, and we only have 3 chapter simulations for chapter 3. Once you finish that, then you'll hopefully come here and work on that. So the assignment is specified here. I'm going to use the Word document, and like I always say, I try to split mine right here. But if you want to get this from your book, it's actually available on page 856, 856, and that's where I got it from. So this is the assignment that I'm going to be working on, and moves from this page to this other page. Now, if you are having some challenges in actually working on the assignment and even with the video, you can actually go back to page 840 in your book. So from page 840 is where the assignment actually comes from. The concepts are covered from page 840 in your book. So the things that you're going to be working on, like adding groups to total queries. So we are going to be working with queries whereby you have already created some database, you have the structure, and then you populate it with some data, and now you're trying to get some results from that database. Most of the time you might not be doing this at the entry level, but as you progress in your career, you might be required to be the one who is going to be carrying out this analysis. Most of them are actually automated because you kind of like click buttons here and there and then you get the results. But in the background, that is what is happening. So you're going to be working on how we can generate these queries. So let's see how we can work on this assignment. And like I mentioned before, usually I don't give the full details of the assignment. I kind of try to walk you and give you the hints so that you can get an idea about how you should be working on this assignment. So read a little bit of this, and the basic item here is that this is actually a continuation of the assignment that you did from chapter 2. So whatever we started with chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, and then even chapter 4. So that's what they're saying. If you did not finish, you have to go back to chapter 2 and make sure that you finish that. That's why you have to be very careful that when you submit the assignment that you're doing okay. If you're having some challenges, let me know, because if you struggle in one chapter, those struggles might be transferred to another chapter up the road. Okay, so let's see what we got here. I like to have my stuff next to each other. That's easier for me to navigate. So like I said, page 857 to page 858. And that create a new query. So this is the database that we start with. We have 4 tables here, and basically what you want to make sure is that the tables, since you're working with the one from the previous chapter, of course you'll have to make sure that all the primary keys have the same type of data type. So short text, I can check that, and you're going by design right clicking. So I've tried to make sure everything is short text, so that, because if you have data mismatch, you're going to have some issues. So that's one thing that I have. And then what I can do is also try to, you can close this once you have confirmed that. And I want to create some relationship, because you're going to be creating a query, and the query is getting data from different tables. That's why we have that concept of relational database management system, RDMS. So because of the relationship. So this is the relationships, and it's based on the primary keys. So you can see how you create this. You might have forgotten how to recreate the relationship. Is you have the call ID is the primary key here, and you look at another table and see there's no any other table that has that call ID. You have rep ID here, and then you have rep ID primary key. So anytime that you see that key, it represents the primary key, which is a field that uniquely identifies a record. So this is the primary key, and if that same field is repeated in another table, then in that other table it's called the secondary key, foreign key. Okay, so this is a foreign key right here. So this is the primary key, foreign key, and you can use these two to create the relationship. That's why they have to be the same data type. So you bring the mouse pointer here, click and hold, and then you drag it and drop it right here. You have this pop-up button. We went through this last assignment, and we're going to be creating the relation between these two. Actually not that. We're doing rep ID and rep ID right there. So make sure they are the same, rep ID, and force referential integrity, and then you can cascade all the updates and the deletions like that. And then you're doing one-to-many relationship, and then you create. So you have that. We have custom ID. We can do the same thing right there, and custom ID, and force that and that and that. And basically what you're doing here is delete related records. Is whereby if we delete a record in one table because of this relationship, that record is going to be deleted all of other tables. So it's like, for instance, if you take a class, or for instance, if you drop from, hypothetically, from college, then it means that all your records are going to be deleted. When the registrar deletes you from a class or from college, then all your records are going to be deleted in all the other departments of the school. That's what you mean by cascading. The same thing with update. If your record gets updated, then those changes are going to be, like, for instance, if you get married and then you change your name and you have your record updated, then that information is going to be transferred or cascaded throughout all the other records that are in the whole university. So that's what you mean by cascading or related field. So referential integrity ensures that the information is the same and you're not having any information that's not missing. Okay, so we have that. So make sure that you have that. So you need to have those relationship. And now we're going to be creating a new query. We're using this in design view. Before we have been using create, we've been using the query wizard. Now we're going to be using the design view. So this is a little bit more technical. It allows us to actually see how the mechanics of query design works. So you'll click query, and by default, most of the time you'll see this blank screen here, and on this field down here you don't see any item. So you need to bring the tables into this sandbox right here, and you can double click on all the tables that you're going to be working with, like that. So in this case, I'm just going to bring all the tables here, although I'm actually not going to be working with all the tables, because if you read, you see you're going to be using create a new query in design view, select the rep first and last names from the reps table and the call ID and die from the calls table. So you only need 2 tables, but you can bring them both here. Okay, so now when you come down here and you go to the table, now you can see that we have some information on the tables. Okay, so we're using the reps table, and what are we getting from the reps table? We're using the first name, and the same thing here, reps, and we're using the last name, first, last, and then we also have from the calls table, we have the calls table. So always good to start with the table calls, because that ensures that you don't have all those field names coming up. And here we have the call ID, and then also the calls table right here, and we have the customer satisfaction. So we have all those fields, and you can maximize this like that, extend if you want to see all the fields that you're working with like that. So that gives you that view. Okay, so we have the field names, then we have the tables. You can do some sorting if you want, and then you have the criteria, and on like that. So group by the rep first. So rep first, if you want to put the group by, you'll come in here and then you click on that, and that will give you that group by function right here, group by that. And we're told to group by first and then followed by last. Okay, so you do that and display the count of the caller ID. So the caller ID under the group totals, you come here and you do, is doing to be what? Doing the count. So I'm going to do the minimum, and then for the customer satisfaction, you're doing the average, and I'm going to do the maximum. So remember, make sure you use the right functions. I'm just using that, so at least you'll have something to do, so to make sure that you're understanding the concept. Average for that, and then change the caption for the caller ID field to number call. So this is what's going to appear in the table, and you don't want this because this is not user friendly. So we want to change this to a user friendly name. So this field, what you'll do is you'll come to the property sheet right here. If it's not appearing, you click on that, and then it pops up right here, and then you go to the caption, and under the caption you type the new name. So remember, the name should be number calls. Okay, the caption, so the caption, new name, number call. So that's the one that's going to appear when we do the query, and you'll see that. Okay, format the customer satisfaction average in standard format and change the caption to average. So if I do that, so I can have more space, I'm going to try to adjust that way and move it like that a little bit. That way I can extend this a little bit, so that gives me more information right here, so I can see what I'm working on. So we did that. Format the customer satisfaction average standard format and change the caption to that. So customer satisfaction, you're going to be doing some changes. So you're going to be working under the property sheet. So the format that we want to do here is you click on this arrow here, and you have all these different format types. And like I said, this is available from page 840 in your book if you're not very sure what you're working on. So this is fixed for the number that we have, because calls is going to be in numbers. And we want to make sure that we have standard format and the caption to average rating. Caption AVG, and then we say ratings. Okay, so average value. I'm going to use average value, but you should have average ratings there. So remember that. Okay, so that's what you're doing to make the changes. We're doing that under the property sheet, and you get it from clicking on that button there under the show and hide. Okay, so format the customer that and do that. Add a new calculated field named average response, subtract on them. Okay, so we can close this actually, so that we have a little bit more space right here. So if you want to bring that, you click on that, and we're going to be adding another field right here, what you're calling a calculated field. So this is one that we can actually use to do some computations. So that, like, this is how they do, like, for instance, for your balance. When you click into your bank account and you want to see how much money you have in your balance, basically they have the total at the end, and that's computed based on your deposit and your other transactions. So we'll be adding a field here. You right click and you click on where you want the field to be in, and then you want to click on build. Okay, you click on build, and we are going to be adding a new field right here. So calculated field named average response, subtract the open data from the closed data, format the field as fixed, display the average for this field. Okay, so we're going to be using simple math. If you want to use the operations, you can, but this is very simple. So basically we have the information right here. What are we subtracting from? Okay, open date from the closed date. So the most important thing is for you to know which one is coming first. Okay, so we're going to be doing some arithmetic, and we're going to be doing what? Closed date. So you just type that, closed date, and minus. You can use your keyboard to do that sign, or you can use the sign from here if you want. And you're subtracting that from opened date, like that, and then you click OK, and then you'll see the expression come down here. So that's how the expression is going to be displayed, and your book explains more about how you go about generating this expression. Okay, you have the expression, full colon, and then what you're calling the arguments, and on like that. Okay, so that's what we're calling it, average response. So what you need to do is you can actually change the caption for that. So now I won't be able to say that exactly, but if you come in here, you put AVG and then new value. So I'm not going to put that, but I'm going to say average new value. Okay, so remember, this is for this caption that we just did down here. Under the caption, you put it there. Okay, so we're going to change this name, and then we are told to do something else. We did that. Format the as fixed. So format right here, we can see it. So what you can actually do is you can maximize this a little bit, and then maybe move this one a little bit like that. So we put the caption for the new value, and then you're going to be formatting, and you're saying click on the arrow pointing down. We're doing fixed, so look for the fixed. It has 2 decimal places. And is there another thing that we should be working on? Okay, fixed, display the average for this field. So by the under the total, you'll come by and say under the grouping bar you want to do the average. Okay, average. Okay, so we did all that. Now we're going to run the query, adjust that, then you can save it as that. So you come up here and then you click on run, and that should be the results of your query. Now mine is showing like that because I don't have a lot of information, but you can see we have everything that we did. New name, remember those captions that we were changing, the captions, and the values that we were displaying like that. Okay, so this is our query, and if you go to the design, that's how the query is going to be like. Okay, now if you click on save, it will ask you for the name of the query. Give the name here. Okay, so the name of this query should be tech ratings. That's the name that you want to give your query. Okay, you click OK, and you have your query right there. So that's how you go about doing the first part here. And then create a new query in design view, select the description field from the call types table. So you come back here and then you finish with that. So you come back to create, and you're doing it in design view. Click on that. Okay, remember the tables. If you want to bring all of them together, that's fine. Or you just bring the ones that you should be working with. Select the description field from that, and then so the same thing that we did. In this case, you're going to be selecting the description field from the calls type. So using the calls type, the table is calls type, like that. Select the right type of field, and the call ID. Okay, call ID. We have the calls, you have the call ID, and from the calls you have the same customer satisfaction like that. Okay, and then change the caption for the call ID to number call. So right here you come here to the property and you change the caption like that. Format the customer satisfaction average standard format, change the caption to that. So under the customer satisfaction you change the caption, and then the format you put the specific format, run the query, blah blah blah, and then you save it like that. Okay, so run the query. Once you finish with that, you run the query. So if this was, so they talk about adjusting the columns. So you can just bring the mouse pointer here and double click to make sure that all the information is available. That's what we mean by adjusting the volume. Make sure that all the information is available. Okay, so run that query and then save it. And then when you finish that, you create another query in the design view. Select that and that, group by that, display the count, blah blah, average for the customer satisfaction. So basically what you're doing is you're just creating different types of queries using the same concept. Okay, so you have the group by. Remember, if you to put the group by concept, you click on this function here and it's going to put that group by, and then you can go ahead and specify all the different criteria. Changing the caption, run that, and think the other item that you're gonna do is you do that. You can do that. Format that average instead of the format. Change the caption to average. Okay, change the caption for that. Run the query. And did I skip something? So there's one that asks you, there's a step that asks you to show the totals. So if I come to the design view, design view of this query, the original one here, and design view, actually datasheet view, datasheet view, and you can add the totals. So if you come, you click here, you click on the totals, you'll add the total row here, and then depending on where you want the totals to be, you click here and you can specify if you want the sum like that, or if you want another value like that, you can specify. So there's another addition there. So under the design view, you see this SQL command. So some of you might be taking advanced class in database management system. This is what is called SQL. And when you write computer program, this is actually how the information looks like. So when you hear someone who is doing software engineering, this is the things that they're doing, and that's how the data is selected. So we have some keywords like select is a database management language, is a SQL command which says select. So what you're doing is you use this for query. You have the first, so this is the table, reps, first, as first of rep first, blah blah blah, all the way like that, and then you have the minimum and all the way like that. So this is actual programming. This is a computer program, okay? But what we have done is we have actually changed this into GUI, what's graphical user interface, where now we remember you're just checking things, clicking, and then we end up with this. So this is what most of us will be able to see. But if you are taking an advanced database management system, you'll actually be designing databases like that. That's how like websites are designed, things like that. So when you hear somebody goes to a website and they like the web page is displaying some malicious information, basically what they have done is they have modified that language. So if you come back here and you make some changes, then those changes will be reflected in the table. So if you take advanced classes, you might come across this type of language. This is what is called the SQL, structured query language. Okay, so that is that part of this. I will post the one for the next part in a few minutes, and all the best. Remember to keep in touch.